Okay, welcome back to the Success, Money, and Marriage podcast. I'm Steve Siebold.
And I'm Dawn Siebold.
And so for today's episode, we're going to talk about patience and forgiveness with your partner when she makes mistakes. I mean, it could be a he too. But
well, you know, the good thing is I don't make mistakes. So
exactly. Never.
I get the entire 15 minutes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So because this is one of the most important things, because, you know, again, especially if you've got a large organization, you have a board and people are making executive committee and you're making decisions with, 6 or 8 people or 10 people, it's a little bit different. But if you have 2 people as a couple, you're a small business or a medium-sized business and you're making the primary decisions. And as you said in, past episodes, we try to stay in, you try to stay in your lane, and then you trust your partner to handle that part of the business, and then they trust you he or she trusts you to handle your part. But with that being said, I think that's a good strategy. You're going to make some mistakes. And then, it's like, hey, what happened? Like, for example, not to bring up the past, Dawn.
And that's not fair fighting.
But, no, just because this is the episode. So
okay.
It's in the context.
All right. Be careful.
Of the episode.
Okay. Within parameters. It's
not being careful. You have to, this
all right. Go ahead.
The whole thing.
Bring it. Bring it. Because if we want to make a list of mistakes, and we can go there. We can still go there.
That's great. Now that's not fair. Okay. No, but for example, when we got hit with some tax bills over the years, which falls into your lane.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was, we got hit with
unexpected tax bills.
It was unexpected. I was working very closely with a friend who was our accountant. And, right. I kept asking him, we're making more, double what we made last year. Shouldn't we increase? And he's like, no. He wasn't paying attention. And at the end of the year, we got hit with $100,000. And of course, I fired him right away.
It was actually over 100,000. Not to
it was. It was
salt in the wound.
But you know what? I learned a $100,000 lesson. Yeah. I'll never do that again. Trust my accountant. But he had been our accountant for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And he just took his eye off the ball. And even with my, calling him and saying we need to increase our quarterly, he just didn't pay attention. And the mistake I learned was, I should have met with him in person, gone over the numbers, and made sure we were living at the lake house at the time. So we weren't local in Florida back when we were snowbirds. But yes, that was totally my fault.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, it was a lot of money, but I remembered back after that happened, and this happens. You pay quarterlies. Obviously, you're paying quarterly taxes. You're keeping up with your money. I mean, that's probably a whole show in itself. Make sure you keep up with your taxes. I know people, we both know people over the years that say, well, I haven't paid tax for the last 3 years. It's like, are you out of your mind?
You're crazy.
The government will put you in, they'll take everything you have, including your tennis racket.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to fool around with the IRS. That's a really, really bad idea. So we've always been very conservative about that.
Right.
We've always paid, quarterlies as soon as we started making a little bit of money.
But I think it's so ezy for entrepreneurs to not pay taxes.
That scares me so much, you even saying that.
I mean, for every entrepreneur that's out there, you do not. I mean, a tax lien is probably the worst thing that you can have against you. And I have several friends of mine that, I think that they think they're going to make it up the next year. Yeah. So I just made by this year, my gross income, my net income just paid the bills, and I will pay it next year. Even if you're breaking even, you guys, you have to pay taxes. So just don't get behind that terrible ball.
Yeah. You don't want to go up against the IRS.
No.
You will lose.
You will lose.
They'll get their money every time, and they don't care if they have to take literally everything you have.
Right.
It's a very serious situation. But when you said it was your fault, I was kind of kidding about that. It really wasn't your fault. Now it's your lane.
Right.
Because that's what you do. But we paid quarterlies and everything, and you have to watch accountants. And I want you to talk more about this because you deal with the accountant more.
Yeah.
Because I remember back in the day, before you got into the business, before Bill and I were just the first year in business. Maybe the first year. Yeah, because I didn't make any money before that, really, to speak of.
We actually lost money.
We lost money, right?
So for all you that are entrepreneurs, the first year Steve was in the speaking business, we lost $50,000 pretty quickly.
Bring that up?
But
I was feeling good when we started the show.
It wasn't really your fault. We followed the wrong people.
I got my shirt on.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to ask you. I'm being very patient, and I appreciate all that are watching on Color, Anywhere Color, that we're being very patient with that shirt.
Just so you know,
I mean, did you get a free bowl of soup?
There's no black and white.
Did you get a free bowl of soup?
Black and white is gone. There's no one watches in black and white. If you've got a color TV at home or an screen with
as I was saying that out loud, I couldn't get it back.
Remember back in the day,
did you get a free bowl of soup?
Remember with the black and white TVs, you used to put the color thing. Oh, you put a plastic. Hunter, you probably know this. A plastic
film,
like a film over a TV set, a black and white TV set, and
with the ears. Remember the ears, and you had to put.
No, but that was a different thing.
That was.
But so you'd look at it like in kind of color. I mean, this goes way back.
Way back.
That's like when we were tiny kids.
Yes.
That stuff.
Well,
happened.
everyone has HD now.
But
too.
now, just so you know, Dawn, everything's in color.
I'm
just
sorry.
so you know, welcome to 2022.
Are you hitting the bars? Are you trying to pick up women with that shirt? Is that where you're going after this?
Not this second. I mean, probably later.
That's just such a gigolo shirt. Like I'm on the prowl.
I appreciate it.
Just so you know, that's what women.
Saw me in Saturday Night Fever.
I'm on the prowl. I'm like walking into a bar. I'm so on the prowl. Okay, go ahead.
You know the whole thing.
Yeah,
that was me. That was me, John. I was in the.
Did it come with batteries? Can we turn it down a little bit?
No batteries. So if you can't see, I have a Robert Graham shirt on. Dawn.
Well,
it's a designer shirt.
I've bought you
I bought this baby on payments. I'm still paying 30 years.
Yes.
Okay. So
you need to learn how money works.
I need to learn how money works, exactly.
So no, but going back to watching the accountants, you really do. I mean, I monitor our numbers every single week, and you just have to, you got
to watch the accountants.
You got to, yes. I sit down.
You're accountant, right? I mean, because
absolutely.
they will get sloppy, and it will cost you, and you can't say, well, I'm not paying it. Well, tell the IRS you're not paying it.
I itemize everything, but not to get off on the accounting thing, but as far as being patient, I think one of the things that I learned very quickly when Steve and I were in college, that I would lose patience with you because it's funny how people learn differently. And I think this is a great lesson for everyone, and especially when you're in business. I learn very quickly. Like I'll pick up things fast. And I used to get so impatient with Steve because he would study and study and study. And then we would get, and we would have these conversations, and I'm like, I just told you that. And I would lose my patience, but you really weren't understanding what I was saying. And so I think for everyone that's in a business and you're working together, know the strengths, know your weaknesses, and be patient with the things that you're trying to communicate if it's not always something that you pick up on. I'll give you an example. Like you're very like I did not write for the magazine. They asked me to write for the magazine. I would write and then give it to Steve, and Steve would finish my article for me because I'm not a writer. And you were always really patient with me because that wasn't something that came naturally.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I think when I see husbands and wives or spouses losing patience in the business, recognize that it might not be that they're trying to make you mad or piss you off. They just maybe not pick it up as quickly. And I really learned that early. That I'll tell you something and I can tell you I'm not saying either clear enough or you're not getting it. I used to lose patience, and now we've kind of worked that through. That when I go over the numbers or I go over something with you, I got to really make sure you're focused and you're sitting down. I have your full attention. Otherwise, I'll say it 4 or 5 times and lose my patience.
Okay, that's really loaded. I'm gonna leave that go because I think you grossly exaggerated my incompetence.
I'm not
saying I'm not incompetent in that area. I'm just saying you grossly exaggerated it.
No, but you did the same thing. You had to learn patience with me on things that I didn't pick up, very quickly, like understanding that you needed more than 3 tennis balls to teach a tennis lesson.
Yeah.
That I just didn't know, so my point is that I see a lot of husbands and wives arguing, and it's unnecessary if you just stop, take a breath, say, hey, are you really not getting this, or you just want me to say it 5 times?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that, you go back to in the context of business. Over time, you and your partner are both going to make colossal mistakes in your lane when even if you're watching. I remember when you said, it was $126,000 or something like that, and you go, we owe another $126,000 and it's due like yesterday, like it's overdue. I'm like, oh, really, dear? I wish. I was a little upset, and I said, and how is this possible? We have, this is why we pay an accountant to do this. And you said, well, here's the thing, and I'm not really sure. And I remembered back, and I was going to say this earlier. I remember back when we first opened Gove Seaboat Group, back in 1998, I think it was, 1998, and we had almost no money.
Right.
I think we had $300 in the bank. Right. I mean, the company did, and we had no money personally.
Right.
Because that's when we had just moved back in with my parents. We had lost $10 million. $10 million. Whole nother story, different show. We'll talk about that at some point. How you lose $10 million? Well, we know how to do it if you ever want to know.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, we went from living on a penthouse apartment on the ocean to living in my parents' spare bedroom, 10 by 10 bedroom, and then working 24 hours a day to get it back. So we had no money. We literally went from being multimillionaires to being broke, literally just nothing. Pretty much overnight it happened. So I was not in a good frame of mind, right? And you went off and you were doing your real estate business and you were actually doing pretty well, but not really at this point. And I was losing money and speaking. Then Bill Gove and we went into business together. And anyway, I remember looking at the checkbook, and we literally had like $300 in the bank or something. The whole thing, the whole business. And my accountant walks in. Remember the guy?
Alan.
No, this is a different guy.
Oh, Jerry.
Don't say his name. Don't say his name.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
sorry.
remember his name anyway. It's too long
I know who
ago.
you're talking about.
This is a guy you might have met him, but
I remember.
I had met him at Toastmasters. And he was a super nice guy, older guy, older at the time for me, older than me, a lot older. And he was an accountant. Everyone said he was a great accountant, the whole thing, So he comes in and he walks in my office, which is like a 10 by 10 little, professional office in Boynton Beach, Florida. And he says, "Oh, Steve, I got some bad news for you." And I said, and I'm just looking at the numbers, I'm going, we are like going out of business like before we even start. We had no capital. And we're used to being, at that point, we had been flush for a couple of years, and it was just like ridiculous amount of money relative to what we were used to. And now we're just broke. And so he walks, I got some bad news for you. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. And I go, okay, yeah, what's the bad news? I'm like, not ha, ha in mood, And he goes, well, we made a little mistake on the taxes, and you're going to owe another $5,000. And I go, yeah, that's really funny. I said, what's the bad news? He goes, no, that's what happened. I had just an error I made, and so you got to pay it, and you got to pay it now. It's due right now. So just write the check, and you can give it to me, and I'll send it to the IRS, or you can send it yourself. I thought I was going to kill him. I'm not kidding. That was the closest I ever came to killing somebody. I said, please tell me you're joking. And he basically said, no, I'm not joking. He thought it was kind of funny. Like to him, $5,000 was probably nothing. Right. Because he was probably 50 years old or 60 years old or something at the time. And when we had no money, he was probably flush. He lived in Palm Beach, And I said, if you're not kidding, you need to leave right now because I'm going to kill you. I'm going to throw you out of my office. I remember telling that to him. Yeah. I've never said it to anybody in my life. I said, I will throw you out the office and drag you down the stairs. You're so fired, it's ridiculous for one. And, I was not very happy. Anyway, we had to pay it. Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember at this point how we came up with the $5,000 because we didn't have the $5,000. I don't even remember how we did it. But anyway, beyond the point. But I remember anyway when you said $126,000. Of course, that's when we had a lot more money after that. But it was still a lot of money, and we had the money obviously. But I was upset about that. I thought right back to because it was my fault. I mean, the accounts takes care of it. But ultimately, that was my lane in the business back then. I mean, that was before you were in the business and you ran it. And I had to tell Bill Gove, my business partner, we owe $5,000 we don't have, by the way. We got $300 in the bank. And it was stupid. I said, Bill, I'm really sorry. I don't know. And Bill was very patient. And Bill said, hey, no problem, kid. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. We'll pay it off somehow. I don't know how we paid it off. But we did. And I remember thinking that about you because that really wasn't, I mean, yeah, technically it was my fault. I get it because I'm running the business. Mm-hmm. But like I trusted the accountant, just like you trusted our accountant. Yeah. And they do that sometimes. You have to, I know it's not about accounting, but that is true that they think nothing of it, guys, because it's not their money. Right. It's our money. Right. And if you're in a cash, even if you're not in a cash crunch, we weren't in a cash crunch, at that point, but that's still $126,000 that you had to write a check for just like that. And if you're a small business, that's a chunk of money, at any level, even if you're making a lot of money. Yeah.
And two, I was
more patient is my point.
Yeah. We're going to kind of getting off on the account things.
My point was I remembered back.
Because you were more patient.
Because I thought, well, Bill could have taken my head off because relative to what we had, that $5,000 was as much as that $126,000, and back, later on.
Yeah. But I think you learn patience. I think that is something if you're aware of your partner's weaknesses, knowing that they're not doing it on purpose. I think a lot of times people blame each other. Like I really wanted to spend another $126,000 that year. Yeah. But just be patient because right around the corner, you're going to make a mistake. And so the more patient, patient I am with Steve, the more patient he is with me. And it truly does kind of have a snowball effect the longer you're in business.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had points in our business where, I would say probably, in the beginning of COVID, when the, two events companies we own started shutting down because obviously, the world shut down, there's no events. So revenue goes from a relatively healthy revenue in both of those companies with employees and all the whole thing to zero. Like literally overnight, like a lot of events, hotels, all that.
Within a couple of months.
So luckily we had saved a lot of money. So that saved us, but we were not really in good moods with each other, because, we were under stress and we started biting at each other pretty good, and all of a sudden you can escalate something small just like you can in any partnership or marriage or a cohabitation or whatever. You can escalate it pretty fast with emotion, and all of a sudden you're up here, you're really high up there with anger and frustration and all the rest, and it's probably beyond the actual problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it's trite to apologize. I think people overthink that and that you should. You can't hear it enough. I know there's several times that the next morning I'll come to Steve and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't patient. I was tired or I had a bad day. But if you feel like you've lost your patience, it never hurts to say you're sorry and you apologize and just be more aware of it.
Yeah, I think that, that's one thing that we've learned over the years, kind of. I guess we never talked about it because we never taught this anymore. It's funny when you start talking about things you do, you just, you talk it out, but it makes sense that what people always say is, of course, in we are living with someone, or you're married to someone, or you're cohabitating, or whatever you want to call it, that, the old saying is, and it's a good one, don't ever go to bed mad. Well, we kind of suck at that. We work a lot, and we've always worked a lot of hours. So we typically work, even when we were, really in every stage of our career. I guess you just get used to it. I guess we don't have kids, so we work until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, sometimes later. So by the time we go from 7 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and then we catch each other, before we go to sleep or before we, wind down, and it's usually pretty late. It's usually 9 o'clock. Really, we're exhausted. We're really tired. So this is not the best time to have a discussion about something important. But for some reason, we like to do that. We like to let's get into some nitty gritty at 9 o'clock at night when we've worked in 12 hours. We're absolutely exhausted, and this is a great time to have a discussion.
Or let me ask him if I can go on a tennis trip right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So we have had lots of situations. I don't think we're really good at saying, okay, before we go to sleep, let's not, we're not very good at that. Yeah. But I will say that what we learned over the years was we can say, that night before we'll be like, screw you, just going at each other. You're wrong. And then we slam the door. And then we see each other at 7 in the morning. Hey, good morning. How you doing? Yeah. We just forget it.
Yeah.
Because you really have to.
Yeah.
You talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you have to let it go. You have to, because you got the whole next day, you got the whole next week. They run into months and then all of a sudden a year's gone by. But no, you absolutely have to. And I think, again, just being acutely aware of and the emotions and the sensitivity of your partner and be respectful of that and know, I'll know times I wake up and go, okay, we're just both tired. I got it. And we'll talk it out in the morning. But you got to let it go, because if it keeps, again, if you have a partner that keeps doing the same thing over and over and over, then maybe you need a therapist. And we're not capable of taking you past that. But if it's just something that they just still keep irritating you and you keep doing it over and over, then you probably need a little bit of help. But recognize that, you're only human. We do the best we can. They're not doing it on purpose for the most part. And of course, and if they are, you need help. But just going through day to day, it can, a week could go by and all of a sudden you wake up and oh my gosh, it's Friday and we hadn't worked that out. You need to let it go.
Yeah, say you're sorry. Be forgiving, because and or even if you're right or wrong, say you're sorry. It really makes the most sense, because again, you're relying on one another. That's really all you have. At the end of the day, you're the ones responsible for the money in the company, for the success, for the failure, for everything. And just like you said a second ago, if for the other person, you just figure out they just took their eye off the ball. He or she just took their him or her his or her eye off the ball, and they're just completely wrong. There's just no way out of it. It's just wrong. You got to let it go, because yours is coming really quick. And the faster you condemn your partner about it, and just beat the hell out of them, the faster your giant mistake is coming. You're like, oh no, I'm dead. And then all of a sudden you've got this war going on with the person you trust most in the world, that you have to be in sync with one another. And it's just bad all the way around. So forgiveness, saying you're sorry, all those, they're common sense things, but in a business, it's that you're working with your spouse, your partner. That's just it's without it, you'd never make it, right? Long term.
No way. Mm-hmm.
We've been in business together 30 years. How would we have ever made it without it?
And if you harbor it and you don't talk it out,
oh God, you can't harbor it.
It's it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better.
Once and you could even decide, maybe you don't even agree. Like, we've had stuff where we just don't agree with each other. It's like, no, I'm locked in. I totally just agree with you, and I'll be the same way. And we go, okay, well, all right, fine. Well, we'll just, that's fine. Let it go. Okay, what's next? And you just move on.
Right.
Because
You
if
have
you
to.
don't, you're dead. Your business is going to die, or your relationship's going to die, or both.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So just be forgiving, and make sure you're paying attention, because that's something that when you get irritated and you lose your patience, that's something that is really hard to keep working on together if you're not understanding.
We never fight in the morning, not usually, because you're fresh, I think.
Yes.
But we can go at it at night because we get tired. And you've been talking with clients, and maybe you're irritated.
Well, I'm building my
happening.
case. It takes me that long to build my case.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
wait. I see
you
you do
are.
something
You're
wrong, and then
devious. You're
I
evil
go
is
and
what
I
you
do.
are.
Well, it's
You're
not,
evil.
Steve,
Yeah, I believe
don't
it.
pick a fight with you. I don't pick fights. I know I can't
you
win.
build your case.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. I build my case.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he's
Very
always
sneaky.
like, I go, Stephen, this is what we really need to do. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Why do you say that? Yeah, I wouldn't tell you. Yes, really. And they'll go, I'll say it again. Steve, this is what we need to do. And you're like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
There's something very wrong with you. They're really, I think it's multiple things.
You married me.
I know, that's why I'm questioning my judgment, which I
Probably
question
why you're wearing that shirt.
Exactly.
I would totally question your judgment. So we're going to have to leave early because Steve's running out to the singles bar.
It's not a singles bar, Dawn. That's like so 1970s and 80s.
Oh, they don't have those
It's
anymore?
just a bar.
Oh, they really don't have a singles bar anymore?
They don't call them singles bars anymore, Dawn. Come on,
Okay.
get hip.
All right.
Where have you been? Dinosaur? Where have you been? Come on. It's not, When was the last like hip movie you saw? Like the Poseidon Adventure?
Okay, that's enough. Going too far. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, well, you guys get the point, I think.
Yeah.
But seriously though, I would just leave you with the idea that
I just got that.
it took a while to
It did,
go through the
because I just watched
network.
Titanic, and I'm like, that's a pretty new movie. But Poseidon, you don't even know what Hunter doesn't even know.
No, that's like 1972.
I got it. I just got it. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Wrap up. I'm sorry.
That's a long. It's.
I was thinking Titanic.
No, you're doing great, Don. It only took you like 5 minutes to get that, but that's good. That's good for an evil woman. That's not bad. Singles bar.
I don't know.
Singles bar. Nobody goes to singles bars, Don. They don't exist.
Poseidon.
Poseidon Adventure. Okay. And if you guys know that, you're listening to this and you know the Poseidon Adventure, you're old
Well,
like that.
yes, that's
You're
right.
really old. Yeah, exactly. Great movie though, by the way.
Yep.
Won the Academy Award.
Yep.
Anyway, so remember to be patient. Remember to forgive, even if you think you're right. Remember, again, like we always say, the relationship is more important than the business. Because if you have the relationship and no business, well, you can always start another business. But if you have no relationship, you're done. You can't work together. You've got to be able to trust each other and be patient. And you're gonna screw up, and you're gonna screw up big. I mean, the more money you make, the easier it is to screw up because there's more to work with. There's
Right.
more moving parts. There's more people, wanting things from you all the time, and you're making fast decisions.
I think there's more decisions to be made.
There's more decisions to be made.
that's
And
what it is.
I've been on the road for 23 years. You make decisions all the time and then tell me about it
Right.
at the end of the day when I'm gone for 2 weeks at a time or, whatever, pre-COVID.
right.
And so you got to trust your partner for that. But certainly know you're going to screw up. And if your partner's screwing up a lot for some reason, you're going to have those times too where you screw up a lot. So whatever you dish out is what's going to come back. Remember that. And the health of the relationship is the only thing that really counts at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind. And so with that, we'll end the episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next show.
Okay. Bye-bye.